Afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Willamette Women Democrats' third annual Lakeside Fundraiser, the virtual edition. Before we start, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our many friends, neighbors, and fellow Oregonians who have been impacted by the devastating fires burning across our state.
It's the gal that
We hold all of them in our hearts. Thank you. For the past 2 years, we have gathered at the beautiful Lakeside home of our presenting sponsor, Samantha Richardson, to raise funds for important local and state races. This year, to ensure the health and safety of all of our guests, we are meeting in the Zoom room. But I hope you enjoy the view of the lake on a clear day over my shoulder. I would like to introduce our sponsor. Samantha is a retired businesswoman and philanthropist. She moved to Lake Oswego from Chicago to be near her daughters and grandchildren and immediately became involved in the community. She has supported the Lake Oswego Public Schools, the Lakeside Center for the Arts, Planned Parenthood of the Columbia Willamette, and is an investor in the Portland Diamond Project to bring Major League Baseball to Portland, among many other things. She is a member and a generous supporter of W2D. Sam, we would have loved to have been Lakeside this past July for our fundraiser, and we look forward to the day when the air is clear again and we can all safely be together. So with no further ado, Samantha Richardson.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Veronica. I was planning on saying to you, I wish that you were all here with me by the lake today, but I wouldn't wish that on anybody at the moment. I can't even see the lake, I'm afraid. I'm just glad that everybody's home and safe. Keep up the good work that you do. I'm so glad to be able to help. I'm afraid I'm not much of at attending meetings, but I can assure you that you will have my continued support and I will help in any way that I can, always.
Thank you, Samantha. I know that we are expecting a number of elected officials with us today as part of our program, and I'm going to let our MC, Representative Andrea Salinas, introduce them throughout the program. But I want to recognize some candidates who have RSVP'd. I hope I'm not missing anyone. It's a little hard for me to go through the list. But in our RSVPs, we had Kate Lieber, who is running for Senate District 14, Joe Buck, who is running for mayor of Lake Oswego, Jules Walters, who is running for mayor in West Lynn, Kimberly Culbertson, who is running for city council in Hillsborough, and a longtime W2D fan, Jeff Goodman, who happens to be running for state treasurer. So there may be some other people on the Zoom, and I will watch for them as we're going through our program. It is now my pleasure to introduce our Master of Ceremonies, or Mistress of Ceremonies, Representative Andrea Salinas. For more than 20 years, Andrea has worked on the front lines of politics to protect and pass policies that help women and children, working people, seniors, and the environment. She first served as an intern to Senator Dianne Feinstein in her San Francisco district office, then as legislative staff to Senator Harry Reid, as a tax and trade policy advisor to Congressman Pete Stark, and finally as a district aide to Congresswoman Darlene Hooley. Prior to becoming a legislator, she worked as an advocate in Salem to help provide Oregon families with a fair shot by increasing the minimum wage, fighting climate change, and providing comprehensive reproductive health care coverage to all Oregon women. Andrea was appointed to the legislature in September of 2017 and won her first election in 2018. She serves as the chair of the House Committee on Healthcare, the chair of the House Committee on Behavioral Health, co-chair of the Oregon Complete Count Committee, and assistant majority leader. In addition, she serves on the Joint Ways and Means Subcommittee on Human Services, the House Committee on Energy and the Environment, the Willamette Falls Locks Commission, and the Oregon Public Employees Benefit Board. What I appreciate most about Andrea is her philosophy about what it means to be a leader. She believes you lead in a way that brings people along, leaves the door open, reaches out to lift others up, and puts more chairs at the table. Thank you, Andrea, for your lifelong dedication to public service and for being our MC today. It's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Veronica. And I just really want to start off by thanking everyone for being here with us today, knowing the importance of what we're trying to do in these really, really difficult times. So I know we're not in a real space together with each other, but I am really giving you all a collective hug because I'm very, very grateful for your willingness again to be here today with the Willamette Women Democrats. So thank you. So first off, we have Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum. Ellen has spent most of her life fighting for and protecting the people of Oregon. As a federal prosecutor, a judge, and now as our Attorney General, the first woman to hold this post in our state's history. Ellen works every day as the people's attorney to defend our rights, advocate for Oregon's most vulnerable, and hold powerful actors accountable. Under Ellen's leadership, Oregon has recouped hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements from large corporations. She has modernized the Department of Justice to be fairer and more transparent to the people of Oregon. Since the first day of the Trump presidency, Ellen has stood up to his administration time and again to defend the rights of Oregonians. She has taken more than 150 and counting environmental actions against this administration to protect our air, water, and future. She's suing in the Supreme Court to defend the Affordable Care Act and led a multi-state suit against the Trump administration's Title X gag rule to protect access to reproductive care. While Ellen has always been dedicated to serving Oregonians, progressive attorneys general across the country look to her leadership as co-chair of the National Democratic Attorney General Association. I am truly honored to be here today to welcome our daughter's last defense against the Trump administration's attack on reproductive health care, our Oregon Attorney General, Ellen Rosenblum. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Representative Salinas. Oh my goodness. And thank you to the wonderful Willamette Women Dems for having me and for hosting all of us today. And thank you so much, Samantha. You are wonderful. And we can't wait to be back at the lake when we can see it. I have such fond memories of last year when we were with you. Looking forward to that. I also wanted to say that I did speak with the governor earlier this morning, and she is very sorry that she's not able to be with us today. She is just working so hard, and goodness knows, but she really wished she could be here. And so I am glad to be able to report that. And a big thank you to all of you for coming. It's great to be back. You have helped raise funds to support my campaigns, and you've invited me to talk about the work of my office on a number of occasions. I'm going to be real brief today because we have so many fabulous speakers and honored guests. So I am more than happy to be in a supporting role today, and I'm thrilled to add my support to Shemia, to Gerritt, and to Deb. Shemia is going to be a fabulous Secretary of State. Gerritt's going to be an equally great Metro counselor, and Deb is going to be a great state senator. So hurrah for all three of you. So with fires all around us and smoke everywhere, in this time of pandemic and of racial reckoning, good leadership is more important than ever. And in this context, just like the rest of you, I feel an immense responsibility to do everything that I can on behalf of Oregonians for the next 4 years. So as I run for a third term as Attorney General, you have my word. I will not waver on my goals or my principles as we move forward. I'm going to continue fighting for all Oregonians' rights and well-being and for progress toward a more inclusive state. And I continue to challenge the Trump administration, and hopefully won't have to do that after January, But I will unfortunately need to address the lasting damage that it has caused no matter what. So hopefully it will be on that side rather than the other. But even when we get President Biden into the Oval Office, we will need to sustain the challenges to Trump's dangerous extremist legacy that's going to outlive and outlast his presidency. So on top of the unconstitutional policies that Trump administration has enacted and the important ones he and his cronies have repealed or gutted, he has dramatically reshaped our nation's courts. And as we all know, in a very bad and long-lasting way. So the legal fights for our basic rights are going to be more complicated. They're going to be longer. They're going to be more challenging than ever before. And I will be there to do my part. This work, however, means little without the support of Democratic leadership in offices throughout Oregon. It's simply essential that all of us coordinate our activities so that Democratic leaders win up and down ballot and we're able to bring the progress to Oregon that the people of our state deserve. So let me just add a word or two about Willamette Women Democrats. You play a key role in all of this. And I should say we, because I feel very much a part of us, not only by supporting progressive candidates, but by advocating directly for progressive measures and policies on so many important issues. And you get Oregonians engaged in elections. All of that is just so important and tremendously appreciated by the candidates and elected officials participating this afternoon. So I know that I speak for all of us when I say thank you. And thanks for having me, as always.
Thank you, Ellen. So next up, I have the pleasure of introducing our state treasurer. Tobias Reed was elected to serve as Oregon's 29th state treasurer in November 2016. He ran for office because Oregon is facing challenges that cannot be solved by money alone. And our state needs a solid financial plan for a stronger future. He's focused on making Oregon a good financial partner to families and providing the tools they need to get ahead. From 2006 to 2016, Treasurer Reed served the 27th District as state representative. While in office, he sponsored and successfully passed legislation to create Oregon Saves, a first of its kind retirement savings plan that gives everyone the ability to save for the future and retire with security and dignity, even if their employer does not provide options. As treasurer, he has overseen the implementation of the Oregon Saves Plan, which successfully enrolled over 50,000 people in the first 18 months. In 2019, Tobias and the Oregon Treasury began a partnership program to help develop and implement similar plans in other states. During his legislative career, Tobias worked to fund full-day kindergarten, support green tech jobs and research, something I had the pleasure of working with him on, stabilize state funding to reduce the need for harsh budget cuts and tax increases, and fix a loophole in state law to ensure unclaimed funds from class action lawsuits are redirected to nonprofit charities rather than back to the original corporate wrongdoers. It is with great pleasure that I introduce my friend, Heidi Egert's spouse, Annika and Ellis's dad, Oregon's State Treasurer, Tobias Reed.
Thank you, Representative Salinas. It is really nice to be with you, and I appreciate the way you put all of those titles there. In fact, you might have recognized those of you who are scanning the masses of people who are here. When I got in, the name showed up as Annika. That is, in fact, our daughter, and so I feel appropriately that's the title. I'm Annika's dad. And I appreciate you giving me just a chance to say hello. I think the Attorney General and I are members of the alumni club here, or the past beneficiaries, and that's really what I want to say. A sincere thank you, because Willamette Women Democrats are amongst the small group of people who think about all the races up and down the ballot. That's evidenced again today by the support you're offering to Shemia, to Gerritt, and to Deb. And I am excited to be part of that team again. We've obviously got several weeks to go in a strange environment, but the flexibility and the dedication that you're showing in this context is greatly appreciated. And I look forward, as everyone has already said, to being back together in person with you soon. So thanks very much. I'm looking forward to the program today.
Thank you, Treasurer Reed. All right, next up. So as our Attorney General stated, the governor won't be with us this afternoon. So next up, I get to start introducing our candidates. We have Gerritt Rosenthal. Gerritt states that he's running because he cares about our region, its housing, its economy, its transportation, its natural environment, and its quality of life. And he is well familiar with our region and all the challenges we have faced. He has lived in rural Tualatin for over 28 years and is deeply committed to solving our common regional problems fairly and wisely. Gerritt is a graduate of Reed College and holds a master's in biochemistry from the University of Minnesota and a master's in hydrology from Cornell University. His background in land use planning, environmental and solid waste assessments, and his experiences working for both regional government and municipal and county governments provide him with a broad regional perspective that will serve him well as our next Metro Councilor. Please help me welcome to the Willamette Women Democrats fundraiser on the virtual lake, Gerritt Rosenthal. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I am both honored and humbled to be here, and I just have to use, I hate to use a fire analogy. Metro is a down ballot, as everybody knows, and the Metro race is like a small campfire compared to the political fires that are surrounding us in so many other races. And as an example of that, I just want to bring up, those of you who may read the Washington Post saw this recent political diatribe brought out by my former representative, Julie Parrish, paid for by the Koch brothers and the Timber Unity. They're making a political statement. They're trying to make political ground out of a very serious statewide issue that the governor has responded to very seriously. So I think we have to realize Metro is doing important things, and I want to be a part of it, and I want to make sure it's done correctly. But we have to realize that political fires around us are much hotter than Metro. So I just want to say that at the start. So the reason, and you also notice I appear on the left side of your screen, and that's not entirely accidental. If I show up on the left side of your picture, I just want to make that clear too. So I forget how many minutes I'm supposed to speak. Why I'm running is because, as Representative Salinas said, I care about regional government. I've worked for a regional government down in Eugene. I realize the kinds of things that regional governments can do, and also the kinds of situations where they can overstep their bounds. The other reason I'm running is because I have a lot of the professional skills that Metro needs. I've worked on regional land use. I've worked on habitat preservation and protection. I've worked on solid waste planning and management. And I've also worked on transportation projects with ODOT. So these are all areas that are pretty familiar to me. I do have a learning curve when it comes to, when it'll come to the homeless issues and to wraparound services and mental health. Metro is facing some big challenges, and there's a lot of different controversies regarding that. Some think Metro has overreached, and some people don't realize that they were asked by the counties to step into the homeless crisis. Then the transportation ballot measure is a big item. There's a lot of reasons to support it, but I realize also that it is a bit of a heavy lift right now in these difficult times. So I support it for two reasons. One is because public works projects that are necessary don't get cheaper. I've been experienced with that when we built a sewage treatment plant in Eugene, and when I saw Portland have to spend a lot of money to build a big dig. And it's also true that in times of economic crisis, local jobs and local payment at fair wages and labor wages are one of the best ways to keep the economy running or to make it run better again. So I'm running because I think that it's important. Because I've managed large projects, large public projects, stormwater control projects, groundwater management projects, regional projects, I've worked with stakeholders of a wide variety, and I've worked with budgets of a fairly large size. So I think it gives me the kind of perspective. I'm also committed to their climate smart strategy and to the equity and safety lens that they're applying to the transportation. So it's a tough lift, but there's a lot of stuff being spread about it that are not quite true. I wish I could work more on tax and timber issues, but that's not something that Metro is going to do, but they still remain something that I'm concerned about. You can tell me how much time I have left and what else you'd like to hear about. Metro Metro has a lot of things to do. It deals with solid waste. It deals with the reopening of the public performance venues. That's important. It deals with the zoo. There's some controversy over the zoo. It's generally been, I believe, Metro under the leadership of President Peterson has been doing a very good and very progressive job. And I would like to be part of that group, and I'd like to work on the same goals that she has. There's some other big issues coming up, such as the replacement of the interstate bridge, which has not gone away, such as dealing with the Willamette Falls locks and seeing whether that's economically viable. So there's some far-reaching, some far-thinking things. And one of the reasons I'm running is because I believe I have a broad perspective. And one of the things I do want to stress is that, and some people don't realize this, Portland Metro, for all of its good qualities, does tend to be sometimes a little Portland-centric. And that's not because they're trying to do bad jobs, but because they don't spend as much time in the rural areas. I know for a fact that the perspective of Wilsonville, the perspective of Sherwood, the perspective of Tualatin and Durham is slightly different. They each have different unemployment mixes. They each have different situations with housing, different goals, different industrial kinds of applications. So it's important to understand these regional differences. And this District 3 represents 7 cities, half of Beaverton, Tigard, King City. King City is undergoing great transformations. They have entirely different situations than they had 5 or 10 years ago. Durham, which is a very unique little kind of community. Then Tualatin, which is growing in a big industrial center. Wilsonville, which is a very big employment center. And Sherwood, which is, you know, when I first moved here, Sherwood was a really rural town. Now it's part of the regional community. So I think we have to behave like a region, and we have to have good government that's responsive, transparent, and open, and willing to listen. So I think I've said enough. Anybody have any questions?
Do we have time for questions, Veronica?
I forget what this.
Not right now. Let's go through the program. If we end up with time at the end, we can certainly take them, but I want to be sure everybody has plenty of chance to chat.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Gerritt.
Thank you.
We're very lucky to have your breadth and depth of experience and really recognizing the changes and challenges ahead for our region. So thank you. All right, next up, I'm really excited to introduce this next candidate. So I'm about to give you an impressive bio on Deb Patterson, but I first feel like I need to tell you something you might not get over Zoom. And I really do wish you could meet her in person. Deb is a caring, competent, compassionate leader who I've had the pleasure of meeting over 2 years ago when I worked on Measure 101, that ballot measure that Julie Parrish put out there to try to take away our Medicaid funding. And I was a new legislator. And since that time, I've been able to witness this remarkable woman grow as a leader and a candidate for the state Senate in Marion County. I am really excited for her candidacy, and I'm really excited to see her continue in the legislature and for me to be able to work with her. Deb Patterson has more than 20 years of experience in health advocacy and education, serving as the executive director of the International Parish Nurse Resource Center. Through the IPNRC, she's worked with more than 15,000 RNs in 23 countries, helping people gain access to needed healthcare in partnership with hospitals, medical schools, nursing schools, and faith communities. She was the founding vice president of the Deaconess Foundation, a children's health philanthropy, where she researched and funded programs to improve children's health, including early childhood interventions, school-based programs, and services to children in the foster care system. In 2011, she was invited by Michelle Obama to attend the start of the First Lady's Let's Move campaign, the historic initiative to improve the health of American children through healthy eating and exercise. Deb has served on the national governing boards of many health-related organizations, including the Council for Health and Human Service Ministries, Faiths United Against Gun Violence, and Faiths United for Healthy Children. She was also appointed by Governor Brown to serve on the Oregon Nursing Home Administrators Board and as commissioner on the Oregon Disabilities Commission. Deb has been an ordained congregational minister for more than 25 years and currently serves in an historic congregational church near Canby. The mother of 2 young adults and married to Dr. Stephen Patterson, please help me welcome Reverend Dr. Deb Patterson, candidate for state Senate.
Thank you, Representative Salinas. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you here today at the Willamette Women Democrats. It's truly an honor. And I'm looking forward to becoming a member if you will take long distance members from Salem in the future, because I would very much like to be a part of your group going forward. And Samantha, I'm sorry I'm not able to be at your beautiful home. I've not had the honor yet, but I am honored to be with you today. Thank you for hosting this meeting. And Veronica, thank you for the invitation, and thank you all. I don't want to take up much more time, but I'd like to also say thank you, Attorney General Rosenblum, for all that you do. Thank you, Treasurer Reed, because the Oregon ABLE plan is a great help to our young adult daughter who has developmental disabilities, and it gave her new opportunities for some financial assistance and preparation for her future. And thank you to Senator Wagner for being here too. Senator Fagan, you're going to be a great Secretary of State. And Gerritt, nice to meet you, and a real pleasure to hear your platform as well. Well, you've heard my bio. The reason that I'm running is because Donald Trump, okay? Just saying. I mean, in 2016, he got elected on a platform of wanting to dismantle access to afford, I'm going to look at the camera, I guess, instead of you, although you're all beautiful. He got elected on a platform of dismantling the access to healthcare, to affordable healthcare for people, tried time and time again through legislative attempts, through the courts. They continue to try. And so that's why I decided to run. After having spent 20 years working to try to get people access to affordable healthcare, I wanted to move forward on that and close the gap. We were at 94% here in Oregon. We can get to 100%, but we have to stand up at the state level clearly, as Attorney General Rosenblum is doing in so many other arenas as well. Second reason I was running is our daughter has special needs, as I just mentioned, and Donald Trump was mocking a disabled reporter. He was a misogynist person who launched his campaign with racist attacks against our immigrant neighbors and friends here in this community, farm workers who are helping us with our food. And so I said, you know, the Republican Party has gone off the rails. It's time to stand up in every level, and no one should go unchallenged in the Republican Party. There should be no seats that are not challenged. So I ran, but I ran against a really wonderful woman, Senator Jackie Winters, who I got to know over the course of the campaign. She was mostly a moderate, certainly in the old style of the Republican Party, and she spoke up for kids, she spoke up for criminal justice, and I was really honored to get to know her, and I'm glad that she was able to pass legislation, or champion legislation, which passed around Measure 11, giving judges the opportunity to try juveniles as juveniles under Measure 11 offenses. Sadly, the person who has been appointed to her seat voted against Senator Winters on that bill, and is not willing to work across the aisle, walked out. So I'm running again. Nothing has changed. We still need affordable access to healthcare for all. We still need more support for small businesses and family farms and good jobs. We need more affordable housing options. Too many people are living without housing in Salem, here as well as in Portland and elsewhere. And we need more help to pay for childcare and college. And I've seen far too many people spend down all their assets to be able to afford long-term care. And finally, we need clean energy jobs with living wages to help the environment. As Representative Salinas mentioned, my church is near Canby. About half of the people had to evacuate. The church was in the go now zone. It's been a very trying week. The last people who were staying with me have just left from the church to return to their homes in Canby. But we need to act now to get these things, affordable healthcare, an Oregon that works for all, and to take care of our climate. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you so much, Deb. We really do need her. Yes, yay. Great.
Oh, and may I just add one more thing? In Marion County here, we are being targeted by the anti-choice folks. The school board is almost entirely anti-choice. The county commissioners' seats are all being held by people with similar positions. And just recently, the Marion County Health Department has completely ended providing any reproductive health services in Marion County. So it's critical that we stand up at the state level to protect these rights. So thank you for your help with this race.
Wow. That is unbelievable. The majority of Oregonians believe we need to protect their reproductive health rights. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Deb. And yeah, and we need to make sure that all, like she said, 94% we're slipping for the amount of people who have access to healthcare. We need Deb. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Senator Shemia Fagan. The Secretary of State race is the most important on Oregon's ballot in 2020. We must win this race to ensure we have a smooth redistricting process in 2021. Shemia is a mom, a civil rights attorney, a legislator, and a fighter. Shemia's life changed thanks to a teacher. Growing up in rural Oregon, Dufur and the Dalles, she didn't have much. Her mother battled addiction and spent a lot of her life homeless, and her father struggled to support 3 kids on his own. Despite these challenges, Shemia's 4th grade teacher at Dufur Elementary School believed in her and showed her that a better life was within reach. Shemia worked her way through college and law school to become a civil rights attorney. She was driven by the need to stand up for those who don't have an advocate. It's the same reason she first decided to run for public office a decade ago. She ran for a seat on the David Douglas School District School Board and unseated a 25-year incumbent. Shemia went on to run for the Oregon State House, defeating an incumbent Republican to win back a Democratic majority in the Oregon House, just 2 months after having her first baby, and was reelected to the House seat. Most recently, just months after giving birth to her second child, Shemia unseated an entrenched 3-term incumbent in the state Senate. She never runs from a fight, but steps up to ensure that everyone has a voice. Shemia has spent her career fighting for working Oregonians, holding big corporations accountable, and speaking truth to power. She's been on the forefront of fights for rent control, expanding healthcare access, transgender rights, and much more. She's dedicated her career to ensuring that children growing up without much, like she did, still have the opportunity to get ahead and to dream of more. It's why she's running for Secretary of State, to bring progress within reach for all. It's with great enthusiasm I welcome a dear friend and co-conspirator in making good trouble, our next Secretary of State, Shemia Fagan.
Well, thank you, Rep. Salinas. And when you put my election history like that, I sound crazy when I look back on doing that work with little babies running around or needing me. So, hello, Samantha. Thank you so much for hosting this. I wish I was at your lake house on a clear, beautiful Oregon September day. And to all the Willamette Women Democrats, thank you so much for your stalwart support of Democrats up and down the ballot. When I first announced my campaign for Secretary of State, I quickly learned that most people have no idea what this job is. My older brothers, when I kind of was like, hey, little sister's gonna run for Secretary of State, they, I think, jokingly said, so what, you get coffee and stuff? So I wanna start there as a quick overview, and this job at its core, the real core function is to make sure that government is working for everybody. From running fair elections that are safe and secure, auditing state agencies and revenues to make sure that programs make a difference, a real difference in the lives of people who need them, the most overseeing public records to make government transparent, and running the Office of Small Business Assistance that I helped create in my first term with then Representative Tobias Reed, who is now our state treasurer, when we help small businesses start up and thrive here in Oregon. But you guys all watch the same news that I do. You see the same tweets that I do. And you know that now more than ever, our groundbreaking vote by mail system here in Oregon is under assault from the president's blatant lies about vote by mail and voter fraud and the Republican politicians who repeat them. And Trump's assault on not just vote by mail, but our democracy, I think really underscores why the Oregon Secretary of State race matters so much in 2020, because when democracy works, it is actually the greatest hope for progress for families that are like mine all across Oregon. And I've spent my life living most of this hope. As Rep. Salinas mentioned, I grew up in rural Oregon, raised by a single dad. My mom battled addiction and homelessness for most of my life. And I remember one time, the summer before I started second grade, we'd been living in the Dalles, and my dad took us on this cool camping trip at the 8 Mile campground in Duffer. Long camping trip, couple of weeks with my two brothers and my dad. And I remember having fun and catching crawdads and doing what you do when you're camping on the creek. And it wasn't until years later that my older brother told me that we were homeless, that we'd been evicted from our house in the Dalles and that we had nowhere to go. And so my dad took us on a camping trip before he was able to find us a new place to live. And so I know what it is like for families to be hanging on by a thread. And that's why I've spent my whole time in the legislature really lifting up struggling families and knocking down barriers to voting, from automatic voter registration, joining the National Popular Vote Compact, expanding vote by mail, and passing legislation that supports housing security and working families. But my Republican opponent this fall, Senator Kim Thatcher, has rejected those efforts, and in particular has joined Trump's attacks on vote by mail and repeated his lies about voter frauds. But even here in Oregon, we have to remember that 4 years ago, even with Trump on the ballot, a conservative Republican was elected Secretary of State here in Oregon. So I want to assure you, Willamette Women Democrats, that we're not taking this race for granted, and not for a minute. And we can't, because as Representative Salinas mentioned, national right-wing groups see the Oregon Secretary of State's race as a cheap way to own the Oregon legislature for the next decade because of redistricting. And just to nerd out on you for 1 second, the way redistricting works in Oregon is the legislature has until July 1st, hard deadline, set in the Constitution, can't be moved, even if the census get delayed for whatever reason. But if July 1st, if they fail to do it by then, complete the entire process, it goes to the Secretary of State. And in Oregon, we've seen the Republicans be willing to walk out over gun safety, vaccines, funding our schools, climate action. You can bet your ass that they will walk out to make sure that Kim Thatcher gets to gerrymander Oregon in the Republicans' favor for the next decade. So we can't let that happen, which is one of the major reasons that we really have to see this race as a high priority this year. But in closing, we also need a Secretary of State who will combat, not repeat, lies about vote by mail and voter fraud. And just to give you a visual on that, how many of you drink coffee at some point in the day, in the morning, enjoy your morning coffee? You can raise your hand. Okay. Vote by mail is actually safer than your morning coffee. Did you know this? The FDA allows up to 5% of your coffee beans to be mold infested, which is okay because your coffee's still good and safe, and the FDA says thumbs up, keep drinking that coffee. But vote by mail, the actual instances of voter frauds are like so far below 1%, you can't even hardly see the number. How many of you eat chocolate any time of the day? That's right. Vote by mail is safer than chocolate, because the FDA allows up to 1% of your cocoa beans to have insect bug parts in them, and yet we all still love our chocolate. So I think that we need to make sure that Oregonians continue to enjoy their morning coffee, their delicious chocolate, and vote by mail. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and thanks for supporting all of these awesome candidates, Deb and Gerritt, and also Tobias and Attorney General Rosenblum and Treasurer Reed, who we need to reelect this year as well. So thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, State Senator Fagan. I am now more afraid to eat chocolate and coffee than I am to vote, which is exactly her point. So she is the kind of Secretary of State I certainly want. Thank you so much. All right, now I get to introduce my state senator. Senator Rob Wagner represents Senate District 19, which includes the communities of Tualatin, Lake Oswego, Westland, River Grove, Durham, and Southwest Portland. Recently elected by his peers to be the Senate Majority Leader, he chairs the Senate Committee on Rules and Executive Appointments and the Ways and Means Subcommittee on General Government. Rob grew up in his Senate district and graduated from Lake Oswego High School. A sense of dedication to public service was instilled in him at a young age by his parents, who both remain active in their community. In his first year in office in 2018, Rob worked with his colleagues to pass legislation that closed the intimate partner loophole, keeping guns out of the hands of convicted stalkers. Believing that healthcare is a human right, Senator Wagner also supported legislation that requires greater transparency in prescription drug pricing so that those who depend on life-saving medicine will know they're getting a fair deal. In the 2019 legislative session, Senator Wagner focused on education, passing Senate Bill 52, requiring school districts to develop policies to prevent youth suicide. Senate Bill 664, requiring Holocaust and genocide education, and Senate Bill 3, expanding educational opportunities by permitting community colleges to offer applied baccalaureate degree programs. Many on this Zoom meeting may already know this, but I think very highly of my state senator. So highly that years ago, I introduced him to my dear friend and his now wife, Lori Cremona Wagner, with whom he is raising their 4 children. So needless to say, it is my great honor to welcome my dear friend, Senate Majority Leader, Rob Wagner.
Hello. This is so funny. So we get pretty used to seeing people and their Zoom backgrounds. You know, I mean, after a while, you start to kind of start figuring out, like, I pretty much know every book on Kate Lieber's bookshelf over her left shoulder right now. I think I haven't read any of them, but they all look fantastic. And normally I have a different like bookshelf orientation, but it's our son's 16th birthday today. So he's like crazy running around here. I think he must have had a frozen mocha and so I'm gonna have to go like track him down and tell him that there's bugs in his drink. I mean, there's all kinds of nastiness in there, you know. And I will say that since he's 16, if the future Secretary of State has her way, right now we would be handing him a voter registration card and getting him signed up. So maybe that's something we can continue to talk about. But it's an honor to be with you. I will say, since I did get jettisoned from my lovely little office space, I have a couple notes on my phone, and I don't want to go too far off script. If everyone knows Veronica, you don't go too off script with Veronica. I also just want to say my heart is with everyone right now who is struggling with what's happening in our state as it relates to all of our crises, especially with wildfire. Karen and Steve, it's so wonderful to see you back in your home. I just had to give you a shout out. I saw that you were moving back in. And that, folks, this election, this is no cakewalk. This is no cakewalk. We're 31 days, 3 hours, and 16 minutes from when ballots are going to be mailed to Oregonians. We're a month out today. And I will say, I miss you all. I certainly miss the food and beverages behind Samantha's house every year. But I miss seeing you at your homes. I miss the cheese plate at the Willamette Women Democrats meeting every month. You know what I'm talking about? Oh my God, I have to get there early because the blue cheese, like Andy's always making a run for it. So it's always a fight. And I will say 31 days, and I'm sure that you all feel probably what I do, is that I'm tired. I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I'm winded, I'm gassed. And we're told sometimes that we're in Oregon, right? We're in Oregon, it doesn't matter. We're gonna be fine here. We can just mail it in, pardon the pun. And as Shemia has told you, we can't have that mindset, and we'll continue to tell you. We are a lot more purple in this state than people think we are. If we don't have to look too far back into history to see that Al Gore almost lost Oregon by a couple thousand votes. There was a Senator Smith and not a Senator Merkley. There was a Congressman Bunn. There was a Secretary of State Richardson. And in 31 plus 18 days, I don't want to go into November 4th and wonder what life was like with a Secretary of State Thatcher or with a Treasurer Goodman. Let's be very clear, the top of the ticket with Ellen Rosenblum and Tobias Reed and Shemia Fagan this election cycle, folks, there are real choices on the ballot. They need us, they need our energy, they need our activism. They need our motivation. We need to be there for them. And I also have to share that being a member of the Oregon State Senate and getting the opportunity, or I don't even know what the word is, it certainly wasn't an opportunity, but to be present for 3 walkouts, as Senator Fagan just said. They walked out when the environment was on the line. They walked out when our schools were on the line. You know that they will walk out the next time we want to talk about revenue or guns or public health or fair elections. This is the party of who they are, is that they will continue to play and exploit this loophole. That means that we have to get good folks elected. This is our election cycle. So for 31 more days plus 18 to get them in, we have to be together and united in Oregon. And I didn't want to get too far off script, but I will say that the other piece that I think sometimes we lose out on is it's not just how do we paint the dystopia? What does it look like on November 4th? But we get the chance to engage with incredible candidates right now. We have Gerritt Rosenthal. Have you ever spent time with Gerritt and asked him about the environment or done a deep dive on Metro? The guy is brilliant. Like, we need Gerritt at Metro. His environmental ethic, his civic engagement, his compassion and passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need Gerritt in Metro. And with Deb Patterson, I can tell you, because not just because Lori's sitting right here, but they're Emerge sisters from 2019, but Deb Patterson and I have got the opportunity to spend a lot of time together over the past year. And we have even, and I masked up and we'll go on hikes and talk about what's going on in the world. And you take a hike with Deb, you go the first mile or 2 or 3, I opened my, I said, Deb, tell me a little bit about yourself. I was 2 miles in and I felt like I was reading a novel about somebody's life, about what they've done. I mean, the accomplishment that she brings and the fact that she wants to step up and serve Oregon in that way, it's absolutely incredible. And then it goes, I would say it goes without saying, but it doesn't go without saying. Secretary of City Fagan is going to make the difference, folks. If I know there's a few rules in the Oregon State Legislature. We have our caucus. I've often said that if you've ever seen the movie Fight Club, what's the first rule about Fight Club? You don't talk about Fight Club. What's the second rule about Fight Club? You don't talk about Fight Club. That's like the Oregon State Senate Democrats caucus. But I will say that in that fight every single day, when it comes to any issue that you care about, when it's housing or reproductive freedom or guns or the environment, go down, or sensible tax safety, or everything that you can do to think about how are we protecting our families and children, that is the person that you want as our Secretary of State. Having Shemia in that office is going to make a huge difference in every facet of what she does, the talent that she has, and the passion that she brings to the job. So at this time, with all of that said, and I said, I'm kicked out of my office, so I've got my own little script, my little notes here, but I know that I'm supposed to thank Samantha Richardson for an anchor donation of $3,000 to start us off with our giving today. So if we could all do the hands up and the huge thank yous. And I also understand that there was a $500 contribution that we'd seen from Jaime Rodriguez and AFT Oregon, which is fantastic. And that the goal of today was to get people, and I know that there's a donation link that's been posted in the chat, but to have people think about how they can give to each one of these candidates through the Willamette Women Democrats. Lori and I, right here, even though that we're already members and we sign up, we do it all, we talked about it, we're gonna do $300 more into the W2D's so that we have $100 each into each of these amazing races, all these incredible candidates that we get to vote for. And so I'm asking folks, if you can do $300 right now in the chat, start lighting it up. And if you can do $100 each for these candidates, oh, look at this. I'm gonna just watch it start pouring through here. And then I'm gonna get Veronica starting to text me and be like, Wagner, you forget, oh, look at this. Ellen Rosenblum is in for $300. Kate Liebert. Andrea is in for $300. Louise Curran is in for $200.
Let's also thank Karen Packer, who has already donated 300, and Mary Ratcliffe, who donated 300. And I have another one somewhere.
I see
Kay
Kathy
Bourdain, who
Gordon.
donated 300.
And Kathy Gordon is in, and if you hear music, apparently my 16-year-old son has decided to have a dance party in the middle of the Willamette Women Democrats fundraiser, so that's totally awesome.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're good.
And then, so if you can, 300 might be a stretch. We're asked to give so much. If you can step up today with a $150 contribution as well, that is $50 more that each of these candidates can then be able to count on as they are doing that tough work over the next month and a half.
So Rosie Stevens is given at the 150 level.
Thank you, Rosie.
And Vicki Chamberlain has given at that level. And Diana Cubbage has given at that level. And I am giving at that level.
Woo-hoo.
Oh, and Mary Solaris at 300. Thank you so much, Mary and Alan.
Nice.
Louise Kern, 200. Thank you so much.
And then our final gift level, and we'll just keep the chat going. Sometimes it takes me a while to catch up to it, is trying to make sure everybody's on the board showing and demonstrating their support for these incredible candidates that are running at every level, our municipal level, our state level, our statewide level. I see Mary Solaris is in for another $200 over the top, but if folks can even do today $25 per race to establish that gift level at $75, every dollar is going to make the difference for these incredible candidates today.
And thank you, Barbara Glazer at 75, and Susan Adams at 75, David Smith at 75, Nancy Murray at 75, Carol Greenow at 75. Thank you all. These are such important races, as Rob has said, and you know, Deb can make a big difference in moving us towards a majority in the Senate that can stop the Republicans from walking out. That's a flip seat, so it's extremely important. And Neelam Gupta at 150, thank you. Bridget Brooks at 75. Lisa Dotto at 200, thank you so much. And then as Rob said, the Secretary of State race is just the most important one this year because of redistricting and all the other important things that we're going to be needing to take care of. You know, our state is going to have some serious work to do to come back, not only from COVID, but now from all these fires. And there's going to be a lot of programs that I know the legislature is going to be funneling tight funds into. And it's a really important role of the Secretary of State's office to audit and look at programs and ensure that the intention of the legislature and the results are one and the same. So that's a critical role.
So before I turn it back over to Andrea, I want to first say, because it looks like we're winding down the donations, a huge thank you, and to the W2D's. I will also say that I noticed that the recording feature is on this video, so I know that Representative Salinas will appreciate the fact that I don't go off script in some weird way. It's an inside joke for folks that weren't there 2 years ago. Let's just say Rachel Prusak has some crazy video. So, but everything that you do every single day to the W2D's, I want to thank you so much for providing that platform. Sometimes I think people think that Clackamas County and Washington County are blue or bluer by chance and not by effort, but we know that it's by effort, and it's by having the civic platform that you provide. It's by the grit and determination, the things that you do to make sure that our candidates are successful regionally and across the state. So it's my honor to be a state senator representing this area and to have the best state representative right here who is our MC. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Andrea.
Thank you, Senator Wagner, and really thank you again, Willamette Women Democrats and Samantha for hosting and for your generous contribution. I'll kick it back over to Veronica.
And I thank you very much, Andrea. I just want to again thank the Attorney General, the Treasurer. As Andrea mentioned, the governor really wanted to be with us today, but was not able to. So we will remind her next year and hopefully have an opportunity to see her in a lovely backyard on the lake with all of you. Thank you to the candidates for their time. Your races are important to us. And we wish you the very best. And we look forward to being able to send you some healthy checks to help you along because we really care that you win. And we're so delighted that you spent time today with us. And donations are still coming in. So the line is open and we really appreciate it. I'll leave it on for a while. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day. And again, please keep in mind all of our neighbors who are going through such challenging times. It's those of us who still have our homes and just lousy air are very fortunate. And it really pains me to consider the people who are in a difficult situation. Shemia, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to note actually that we put a thread out in a couple of places. If you know folks, I know that Steve and Karen are back in their house now, and I bet they would have known this information, but if folks are displaced, they obviously, particularly if you know any folks whose actual, residences have been burnt down, they have until October 13th to go on OregonVotes.org and change the address where they want their ballot set. They can either actually change their residence or they can just have their ballot sent elsewhere but still be voting in their same area. There is a provisional ballot option, but that should be a last resort. Folks still have plenty of time through OregonVotes.org to update their address. And if they are displaced, if you know folks that are displaced at a shelter or a church, they can have their ballot sent to any kind of identifiable location by USPS. So we put that thread on Facebook and on Twitter, but just want to make sure that folks see that. So if you know folks or if you want to share that, just make sure that people understand that we do vote by mail already accounts for this, that we don't need to, there's no additional steps that need to be taken as far as just getting people accurate information is all we need to do to let them know how simple it is to change the address to where they want their ballot sent.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. And with that, I think we will say good afternoon. Take care, stay safe, and thank you all for joining us and for your support of these wonderful candidates. Bye-bye.
Thank you.